SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Jack Hoffman. For nearly 31 years, Tico's Steakhouse has been a staple for fine dining in Jackson, Mississippi. I would like to invite you to come experience our family tradition of our hospitality, sizzling steaks, and healthy poured beverages. Call today or stop in and experience Tico's in the second generation.
With locations in Ridgeland on County Line Road and now on the Square in Oxford.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to Midday Super Talk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Rhino.
Howdy.
Stephen Fisk, he got his first PGA Tour win at the Sanderson Farms Championship, firing a blistering 24 under par for the tournament. 8 under yesterday, shot a 64, incomprehensible. And it was a bit windy as well. I played golf yesterday. A little front came through, as is evidenced by the rain, which has engulfed a good bit of the Magnolia State today. Hopefully that's going to be on out of here for cruising the coast, because we're headed that way. Tomorrow we'll be in Moss Point. Wednesday on the Biloxi Green. Our normal position there, our perch there on the stage a bit above the ground level, but what a great view we have of the gorgeous Mississippi Gulf Coast, and all those classic, beautiful vehicles will be parked around us. Congratulations, however, again to Stephen Fisk, 28 years old. Says he drew motivation from his father, Christopher, who passed away earlier this year. Turns out Fisk's father introduced him to the great game of golf. He told his team, did Stephen Fisk, before he teed off at the Country Club of Jackson, that he was going to win the Sanderson Farms Championship, and he did just that. Birdied the final 3 holes to shoot an 8 under 64 in the final round, winning his first PGA Tour event with a 24 under score. Incredible. He says, quote, he nudged a couple of putts in for me, for sure. That is Fisk, of course, saying that of his father. I had a couple of helpers out there, but I miss him very much. And I know he'd be really proud of how I played all week, and especially today, to keep my composure and just go about my business the best way I know how. So, hopefully, someone will pick up the title sponsorship of the tournament, and it will continue as the only PGA Tour event in the state of Mississippi. They do so much great good for charities, and including Children's Hospital of Mississippi, Canopy Children's Solutions, many others, long list, do a fantastic job. And it's a great shot in the economy's arm as well. So the players love it here, and hopefully we'll pick up a sponsor and it will be back. In the meantime, we got the Mississippi State Fair going on also. That kicked off on the 2nd. It goes through the 13th, a week from today. check it out. Lots of activities going on at the Mississippi State Fair.
I've heard lots of good things about the blueberry lemonade.
Blueberry lemonade?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I've got a buddy that's been twice already, and he came back with a half a gallon the second time he went with blueberry lemonade.
Unbelievable.
Made right here in the Magnolia State.
Wow. Cool. Well, we grow a lot of blueberries here, right? And they're good for you, right? Aren't they like a superfood, one of those?
I don't know if they quite rise to superfood, but yeah, they're definitely recommended.
Okay. There was a gator in a McDonald's at the drive-thru. This is really something. In Macon, Georgia, 12-foot alligator caught at the McDonald's over there in Macon, Georgia. It was lounging near the drive-thru this weekend, eventually captured and relocated, but not before a group of residents took matters into their own hands. It was spotted Friday outside the McDonald's on Rocky Creek Road, that according to the Bibb County Sheriff's Office. Said, we got everything here. Black guys in gym attire, white boys in jeans and no shirt, an alligator, and a McDonald's dumpster. That's awesome. So they were able to commandeer this beast. One participant described the harrowing scene thusly. Listen to this. Dude pulls up with some duct tape and a shoestring. He starts taunting the gator. We were like, it's our time now, for real, for real. We finna get this thing. I start yanking him back. Walking him like a pit bull. Oh, my gosh. Oh, man, this is funny. You just don't expect to see, and there's great video of it just walking around the drive-thru outside the McDonald's. What a great story that is. Voting is underway in California on the new maps. This is what they do in California. This is a ballot measure the voters will vote on that could swing control of the United States House, should it pass. Meanwhile, today, right, last day to register to vote? We just had the secretary on.
Yes, today's the last day to register for
in Mississippi, of course.
Mississippi.
Yeah, okay. So we got some special elections coming up in November, inside a month now.
And normal elections.
And normal elections, too, yeah. I didn't mean to omit that. That's right. So the Speaker of the House up in Washington, Mike Johnson, he says, hey, members of Congress, the House at least, go home, take a vacation during the shutdown. One of the members of the House has introduced legislation that would discontinue pay for members of Congress while a shutdown is in process. That would be fairly popular, I think, with the people who are kind of frustrated with the whole deal.
I don't think that goes quite far enough.
You don't?
I think not only should Congress people be not paid during a government shutdown, they should not receive any back pay during a government shutdown, and they should be fined for every day the government is shut down if they really want to not have shutdowns.
I'm down with that. It's Representative Ralph Norman, Republican from South Carolina, who introduced such legislation. He stated that lawmakers should not receive a salary if they fail their, quote, constitutional duty to fund the government's essential functions. They would forfeit the pay, actually. So he's hearing you there. The way I read it, his amendment proposes that all members of Congress forfeit their pay with no back pay provided once the government reopens. He, of course, and other House Republicans are blaming the Democrats for the shutdown. Interesting poll conducted by the Scott Rasmussen organization. It's a pretty good pollster, I found, following him in the past. And he asked folks what they think about the shutdown. 29% said there's a shutdown. 6% says we've been impacted.
I yearn to be in that 29% with every fiber of my being.
No, you don't. 6% have been say they've been impacted a lot. And so the other 65% say, oh, that's D.C. That doesn't affect me. It's not really a national story. Wow, that's after a survey of 1,000 registered voters that was conducted on October 1st. Now, today, over there in the Senate, they're going to take up two competing continuing resolutions. One, of course, drafted by the Republicans, the other by the Democrats. And there's only one difference between these two bills. That is, the Democrat version includes a provision that would extend the Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies enacted in the American Rescue Plan signed into law by President Joe Biden in early 2021. We got to dig into the details of exactly what that means. I think it's important that folks certainly understand that. Jim Croce pumping us out of this segment. Gene Massey, Executive Director, Ascent to 55%. The Mississippi Economic Council, Mississippi Propel Education Forum. She's coming on at 11:05 today. Stay with us.
He a gambler, and he like his fancy clothes, and he like to wear.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
But I can't clear my head from what went down last night.
That Foreigner, Lou Graham on lead vocals there. He one of the co-founders of the group, classic rock from the 70s and 80s. Mick Jones as well. So, we're back with you in the Element Well studio. We were just talking about this shutdown stuff that's going on right now, and lots of speculation as to when that might be behind us, and at least the Senate works something out to reopen the government. Today, though, I will say the Democrats are employing a pretty effective strategy. I don't agree with the policy, but that's different than politics. There's policy, then there's politics. From a policy perspective, the big sticking point is extending the enhanced premium tax credits. It's subsidies. It's welfare. It's what it is. In the Obamacare exchanges, the marketplaces, as they are called, all 50 states operate one of those exchanges. We have one in Mississippi, healthcare.gov. You go log on and you can search for coverage offered in the three broad categories in your particular state. You remember, Rhino, originally when that law was passed in 2010, states were compelled to create their own exchanges. And lots of states spent a bunch of money doing that. They got some federal money to assist in that effort. And if I'm not mistaken, they all crashed, as in they couldn't really complete that assignment. You didn't have the technology you do today, 15 years later, to create.
Also hamstringed by the inefficiency and incompetency of the federal government and state governments.
100% correct. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I know I've mentioned this before on the program. It was
the federal government could screw up a one-car funeral.
It was Oregon that spent like $400 million or some insane amount of money and got nothing to show for it. But ultimately, there were some modifications in the policy such that the federal government said, okay, we'll create this, and you can abandon your internal efforts. Now, remember, we had Commissioner Mike Cheney, of the insurance department on not too terribly long ago. It was during the session, right? He had legislation. I can't remember if that passed or not, Rhino, that he was pushing to pull that back from the Fed and create a state-run exchange, operate it, administer it, fund it, as opposed to paying fees to the federal government for their operation and administration of Mississippi's exchange. He had done the math, his group had, and said, it would be less money for us to operate it on our own accord and get off the federal program that runs exchanges for many states where you're paying fees for that service. But nonetheless, that's what's at stake with this big CR debacle, the government shutdown going on. Here's where I think the Democrats have a fairly effective political strategy, not policy strategy. I want to be clear about that. Is that their CR that they intend to put on the floor today in the U.S. Senate is the Republican CR plus extending those enhanced subsidies permanently. And it won't pass, and the Republican version won't pass either. But what Democrats will get for that exercise is a record of Republicans voting against these subsidies and extending the enhanced subsidies. And so if that's the way it ends up permanently, where the enhanced subsidies are allowed to expire at the end of the year, this year, when folks receive their notifications, 24 million of them in the country, 340,000 in Mississippi, pretty soon here, what their premiums are going to be next year, they're going to see on average those increase by 114%. They're going to freak out. And the Democrats are going to effectively, mark my word here, promote and campaign the idea that it's the Republicans, they won't extend that welfare. And guess what? It turns out Republicans like government assistance as well. I'm sad to say. There are a lot of Republicans enrolled in the exchanges that get government subsidies for their health insurance. And when they see that go up substantially, they're going to be upset. They're going to start asking questions. What the heck's going on? And they're going to be pounded with this message from the Democrats. Those mean old Republicans wouldn't renew those enhanced subsidies.
I'm still confused how that works mathematically. Were they paying 114% more pre-COVID?
No, some were, yes. And here's why, because...
So they've had a great deal since COVID.
Correct.
Do we also want to extend 6 feet from everybody? Wash your hands every 30 seconds. Wear a mask wherever you...
I hear you.
Do we ever end this COVID nightmare nonsense?
No, the Democrats have seized upon it. Permanently, it feels. People don't care. All they know is, I'm paying zero today, and I'm going to have to pay. And I got to share a story I got from a physician this weekend that will blow you away. You won't be surprised, but our audience will be. But they're going to go from paying zero, because what the enhanced subsidies did is it slid the scale up of the way the subsidies are awarded. And if you make less than 150% of the federal poverty level, your premiums went to zero. Whereas before, I know this is crazy, they were $30 a month, roughly, at the top end of that first range, 0 or 100% to 150%. So I had a friend that is a physician I was talking to this weekend. This guy is involved at a high level in a healthcare institution. Patient in the ER, weighs 350 pounds, and needs some sort of treatment for their heart. Not surprising on a 350-pound individual. So I never even heard of this before. Some sort of vest? You ever heard of that? Some sort of treatment vest that you can wear to, like, I guess, treat whatever your heart situation is. Bottom line is, it's $55,000, this vest. Okay, so this person doesn't have any insurance. They got to make a call. Do we give this person this vest? Well, according to EMTALA, if you don't, you're not stabilizing the patient. That turned out to be the less expensive treatment they could provide. Because otherwise they'd have to live in the hospital. Because this vest apparently provides some sort of more permanent in nature treatment such that you can stabilize them and release them in accordance with EMTALA. And so they asked this person, how come you don't enroll in the ACA? They're not qualified for Medicaid. How come you don't enroll in the ACA exchanges? This is what he told me this person said in response to that question. Well, that cost me $20 a month. Kid you not. You're not surprised at this, are you?
Not at all.
You see how screwed up this crap is, though? $20 a month. Unbelievable. So instead, you see what's going to happen here. The hospital's eating that $55,000. And guess who's paying for it? Me and you. And our commercial premiums, right? In the disproportionate share monies that come from the federal government to help offset the cost of uninsured care, right? We're paying for it. Unbelievable. $20 a month. Guarantee you that person spends $20 a month on stuff they don't need. How do we change that?
You cut them off.
I hear you. And you know that's
the only way it's going to end.
You may
consequences.
Be right. You may be right.
When the government quits holding your hand and lets the consequences of your poor life choices and decision smack you right in the face, then maybe you'll learn government ain't the answer to every dang problem.
Thomas in Greenwood says, let them die. I just don't think our society... I hear you guys. I do. I just don't think our society's
You
there.
can treat somebody without slapping a Cadillac on their chest just to jump through a legal hoop.
And that's part of the problem is it all goes back to that where hospitals can't deny treatment at least to stabilize the patient. That's what the law says, passed in 1986 by Ronald Reagan. Coming right back.
From the Seabrook. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. Little CCR bumping us into this segment here. So I saw a report in Wallet Hub. They collect lots of information, mainly focused on just quality of life, financial matters at the household level. It said Mississippi is the 50th least safe state. Now, we were talking this morning, Rhino. Can you recap for the folks some of the violent crime that's happened involving young people in our state? I don't know that I could remember all of the various incidents, but that our news director, J.T. Mitchell, was discussing. This is disturbing. Why are so many young people into this violent stuff?
Because the justice system is not built or designed to handle violence or violent crime by those under the age of 18.
Oh, man.
So in their minds and in far too many cases, people will do really stupid and violent stuff when they're 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and expect to get away with it, or at least just get a slap on the wrist, and sadly that's what happens most of the time.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And that's just sad.
Unless they're tried as an adult, in which case it's usually a particularly heinous and particularly public incident.
Yeah. Well, I don't like to see our state, on that list. And again, it's however they collect that data is something to at least consider in the results. But that's what they found, and that is being distributed to all who pay attention to that service. I have subscribed to it for quite some time. I find it fascinating what they have to say. Wallet Hub. The other thing that caught my eye, a recent survey by Wallet Hub, was they're looking to determine which states, rank the states in according to some metrics that they're calling budgeters, like the households in the state and how good they are at just budgeting their household affairs. And they found that unfortunately, we have the nation's worst budgeters. And the three big measurements they use in that particular scenario to determine who has the worst budgeters, believe it or not, are foreclosures, credit scores, and income to debt ratios. And so I think it's fair to say that there's clearly a correlation between poverty and how good a state is at budgeting. And because we are the poorest state, it stands to reason we would have the state's worst, or the country's worst budgeters. But that's where we are. Ranked 50th, no surprise. Louisiana's 49th, Oklahoma 48, Alabama 47, Georgia 46, Arkansas 45. The best, Hawaii, Washington, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Vermont, North Dakota, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Colorado. Take it for what it's worth. It's a Wallet Hub study. They go into details of how they collected the data and what information they analyzed. But
in fairness, in Hawaii, unless you're a millionaire, if you don't budget, you starve.
That's absolutely true. It's a brutally expensive place to live. They looked at 12 key indicators of budgeting habits, but primarily credit scores, debt-to-income ratios, and foreclosure rates. That's straight from the report. So, back to this healthcare thing. This all got set in motion, of course, in 2010, when this idea of creating these exchanges where folks could buy coverage if they worked for a company that did not provide coverage or did not provide what the law defines as affordable coverage. Then you get a pass to go to the exchanges and get subsidies to offset your cost of premiums. I guess I don't understand what that's Obama's idea. It was Obama's design. Now all of a sudden the Democrats don't think that's good enough. That's essentially what they're saying and insisting on passing the CR with their enhanced subsidies, which were temporarily implemented under Joe Biden in 2021, as you point out, under the pretense of COVID, right? That was the deal. And then looking back with a 4-year, it had to have a termination date on it, by the way. It couldn't be made permanent because you need 60 votes to do that. The Democrats knew that. So they got it as far as they could to make it fit within the budget reconciliation parameters. 4 years. Well, alas, here we are, into that 4-year period. And now the Republicans are being made out to look like the bad guys because they just simply want to return to the pre-COVID welfare in the ACA exchanges. Something else folks should know about is one of the things that 2021 legislation did, the enhanced subsidies that expire at the end of this year, is it eliminated what has been called, since the law was passed in 2010, after it went into practice, the subsidy cliff. And that means that the subsidies available to those with income up to 400% of the federal poverty level, once you went over that 400%, you weren't eligible for subsidies. So for an individual, 400% is about 62, 63 grand is the way it is. Now, I think a family of 4, if I'm not mistaken, it's about $125,000. I'd have to check the latest chart on the federal poverty level. And at that point, your premiums would be limited to, and that's the other thing it did, is it reduced that affordability percentage from 9% or 9.5%, to 8.5% of your income. That's what you pay. That's why you can have a premium, like I said, of $20 a month. I was talking about that in the other segment because at that level of income, the percentage is 2%. It was 2%, zero now, but it was 2%. So you can do the math there. If you make $20,000 a year, which means you're at the top end of the first range, 2% of that's $400 a year. A year. I need to be clear about that for insurance. Roughly $30 a month, $32 a month. Well, what's the cost of individual commercial coverage now? $700-800 a month, right? I think it's in the range. So this would be less than 1/2 of 1 month once you account for the subsidies the taxpayers provide there. And so, it's like, I think I talked about this Friday in the sales business. We have something called the puppy dog sale. I talked about that at the end of the show. You give somebody something like this and you try to take it away, man, it's hell. Wait, what's going on here? My premiums were X and now they're 2X. What the heck happened? You take it away. And that's the problem with all.
Society got to a point where the puppy dog sale doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because if that puppy dog leaves the store, that store owner's never getting paid.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly right. And they know that. So the Democrats knew when they put that in motion in 2021 that they timed it sneakily, if you will, so that it expires just before the midterm campaigns get cranked up, and they'll all be running around blaming the Republicans for your insurance premiums going up. Here's my prediction. The Republicans will cave. They will cave. They will vote to extend those enhanced subsidies, not permanently, but temporarily, to kick it past the midterms so that nobody will pay attention to it. And then it'll come up again and it'll be somebody else's problem. That's my prediction. I could be wrong here. And maybe they don't extend them in full. Maybe there's some compromise. Like this subsidy cliff deal. I don't know. You're making the kind of money, the 400%. Let's say you make $300,000 a year. You're actually eligible for subsidies. You need subsidies when you're making $300,000 a year. And by the way, just to be clear now, the subsidies would only kick in if the cost of your insurance in that case is more than $24,000 a year. In some states where I know family coverage, that's about what it is now. I think New Jersey, it's as much as $30,000 a year for family coverage. Don Hanley with the dirty laundry here. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Built upon. You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
It's you and me, baby, no one else we could trust. We'll say nothing to no one, know how. Or we bust and never crack a smile or flinch or cry for nobody.
Okay, so 400% of the federal poverty level for a family of four is $128,600 a year. So at that point, coverage, your premium cost for that family of four under the ACA exchange subsidy structure would be, $11,000 a year. I don't think that would buy typical coverage for a family of four. $11,000 won't do it, will it? No, I think it's more in the $20,000 range.
Unless you got a really nice employer.
Well, yeah, and that's assuming you're getting it from your employer. But most employers...
That's what I mean by really nice, where they're also picking up part of the family tab, too, because usually they only cover the employee.
Yeah, it's very rare that an employer covers any others in the household outside or provides some financial assistance as part of your compensation package outside of the employee. Usually it's less than 100%. In fact, I've actually researched this on a nationwide basis. The average employer-paid portion of coverage is 75% of the employee. That's the average. So if you add your spouse, your children, or if you're a single person with children, you're responsible for the children. In the case where you're married, you're responsible for the spouse. If you have children, you're responsible for them as well. That's typically how it works. But, heck, last time I checked, the average premiums, like I said, for the typical family of four, I think it's got to be approaching $20,000 now, a year, talking about. We can look that up. I may be off a little bit. Let's see, John says, he said that his insurance went up from $39 a month to $649 after Obamacare was passed. He's self-employed. So I just responded back, you're likely eligible for subsidized coverage in the exchange. It says not interested in subsidized coverage. Well, that's noble of you, John. The taxpayers appreciate that. I understand it's over a 15-year time frame, but an increase of $610 a month, it's on my personal health insurance. Well, I can say this, honestly, as an employer before Obamacare, our group coverage went up every year. Every year. And it was the same process and sequence, Ryan. No, you're shaking your head. It's right. Every year when my insurance agent would call up around this time of year to come out and take me to lunch, and I knew you're taking me to lunch to tell me that our premiums are going up. And also, if you have one catastrophic case in your group, it kills you. I mean, that's not as much, honestly, now of an impact after Obamacare as it was before. And we had a couple of very expensive cases, among our staff. That time, back in those days, didn't have as many to spread it out over. And, yeah, it makes it go up. But there's no doubt that government intrusion into the health care system in this country, a la Obamacare, did cause, in general, premiums to rise. I will say this, though. The law does require your employer. See, this is the nuanced part. Your employer has to provide affordable coverage, meaning your portion of the cost cannot exceed 8.5% of your household income. And when that was first put into the law, it lacked the details and the explanation like, wait, household income, meaning as an employer, I got to know what my employee's spouse makes or others living in the house? Well, that's crazy. I don't want to have to go intrude on their privacy and do that. And then the other thing the law left out is, wait, are you talking about 8.5% for the coverage just for the employee or the employee, like I was saying, the other categories? Do you know that to this day, that's still not been codified because the IRS can't codify that because the law didn't include enough specifics in its drafting. And so the IRS issued what's called a safe harbor. That's still in play today. And the safe harbor simply says, okay, employers, as long as it's 8.5% of employee-only coverage, you're good to go. And that's where we are today. So this stuff's just incredibly complicated. It'll hurt your head after a while. Man, oh, man. Let's see, on the C Spire text line, try $1,800 a month on insurance on poultry farms. So I assume and know that's on the C Spire's first time this person's ever texted. Appreciate that. $1,800 a month for health insurance for anyone who works on the farm. I'm not sure what they're saying there. Let us know. Interesting. Dan in Hattiesburg, about the person that said they didn't want to pay $20 a month for their insurance, says they probably pay $20 per meal. Totally agree. Totally agree. They can cut out one all-you-can-eat buffet and pay for that. Actually, I will tell you that my physician friend said that they came into the ER eating potato chips, 350 pounds. You're not surprised at that, are you?
Not in the slightest.
Gene Massey coming up next. Stay with us.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply, and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays. It's a short show because it's Monday. It's Ricky Matthews, Super Talk Outdoors at 12:05 coming your way today. Right now, it's Gene Massey, Executive Director, Ascent to 55%. Also, Jason Dean in the studio. I don't know exactly what your position is with all this. Will you please tell us?
I have the pleasure to serve as Executive Director for our state's private college association, which has kept me engaged in higher ed for the last several years. But I started my career working at the University of Mississippi 25 years ago, and was hired by Governor Barber to be his education advisor when he was elected. And I look up and all of a sudden, 25 years later, life has just taken over.
Chairman of the Board of Education at one point, right?
I had also had the privilege for 6 years to serve on the State Board of Education, 3 years as chairman, including through COVID, which was quite the experience. I thought Katrina was something.
And you and I talked several times
Absolutely.
During that period of time because there was a lot of policy and a lot of different directions going on at that time, right?
Absolutely. And unlike Katrina, which you knew there was an event and you could see the devastation and knew what to do with COVID, we just really didn't know when it was going to end. So very different, but glad to have been able to serve.
Appreciate you being here. All right, Gene, tell us about Ascent to 55%. You got an event coming up on October 15, 16. What's this all about?
We do. We have a conference at the Jackson Convention Center starting at 11 o'clock on the 15th that will go through noon on the 16th. And it's about bringing business, industry, education, K-12, community college, university together to look at how we can really work together to improve our post-secondary attainment.
Okay. And that's super important. Do you guys talk about how we can keep these great people here as well, huh?
That's part of the conference. Yeah. How do we do talent retention? What can we do to keep our individuals here? We have several panels that will actually talk about that. What's happening? What are some ways through internships, apprenticeships that we can actually get people interested in what's going on in Mississippi, and how do we keep our talent here?
So I've always felt like, Jason, anytime we can get the education community, the public sector, the private sector, it's hard to get all those folks in the same room, is it not? But when we can get them to collaborate, really we're better positioned to produce good outcomes.
I love that you use that word collaborate, because that's what this is. It's an event where different stakeholder groups across the state of Mississippi are coming together for 2 days, actually, where we're talking about these issues that are important to everybody. what we sometimes suffer from in Mississippi is systemic alignment, is what I call. You've got multiple different governing boards for education. K-12's one, community college, IHL's one. Then you got 130 plus school districts. You got the MD. It's a complex system, but when we can align to things like the good work that Accelerate Mississippi's doing, the leadership of our governor and our economic development, big wins, when we can get educators to understand they are providing the workers for that. They are the supply for the demand. And you start talking about it in business terms, then I think you get some common ground.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree. So, Gene, what's the relationship with the Mississippi Economic Council here?
Back in about 4 years ago, Mississippi Economic Council wrote a grant to the Woodward Hines Education Foundation to work on the Ascent to 55%, which is the attainment goal that was set by the Education Achievement Council. And it's to increase our adult population with a post-secondary certification, associate degree, bachelor's degree to improve our attainment level by 2030 and 60% by 2035. So through this grant, through Woodward Hines, MEC was able to do the work that we're doing now to really try to coordinate efforts to improve our attainment levels for our adults across the state.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. So, and to what extent are we getting information from these prospective employers to tailor these programs to make sure we're equipping folks with the skills they need to take these jobs?
We are working very closely with Ascent, with Accelerate Mississippi, with other organizations across the state, with our colleges, with our K-12, and with our local communities, because when you really think about it, it's about what's going on in these local areas, because what may be needed on the coast may not be what's needed in North Mississippi. So how do we bring all these entities together to look at what is the pathway from K-12 to community college to IHL or wherever along that line you need to be, because it's not the same for everyone. And how do we get people to understand where the opportunities are across Mississippi and how you fit into these opportunities?
Yeah, I know the governor has said before that he shared with me, I guess privately, I don't think I'm talking out of school here, that he wants to change the unemployment commission to the employment commission, and he's right that we when folks file for unemployment, we ought to be getting them employed because there's jobs out there, but there's like a disconnect, right, Jason?
There is enormous opportunity in that, though, because in Mississippi we have a very large number of what we call stop outs. Those are Mississippians that have some college credit but no degree. It's about 310,000 Mississippians,
wow.
About 12%. So, in that age group, we think that that's opportunity, though, to reach out and say, come back in and think about a workforce certification, think about an industry recognized certification, build on that. It's called a stackable portable skill that you can just get a degree from a college and then build from that. If you want to get an MBA later, go for it. But if you want to do it now, that's cool too. But just get into college, go back to college if you got some credentials, some credit but no credentials. So there's a real big opportunity out there and plenty of people, but this also goes to the labor participation rate.
Okay.
So we're tracking, the same kind of language. Our state economist is going to be a panelist at our conference next week, and I know he's talked a lot about the labor participation rate. This is part of what our job is to address that. You get a degree, you get a job.
We've improved our situation considerably. I mean, our unemployment rate is kind of in line with the rest of the country. A lot of times we're a laggard there, right? We have a higher unemployment rate than the nation does at large. We've improved that situation, and, of course, we've had incredible improvements in our K-12 educational outcomes, and that's gotten national attention. As we know, Minnesota's running billboards now. Why can't Minnesota be like Mississippi? Who would have thought that ever happened?
I sent that to my friends in Minnesota,
that's
by
awesome.
the way.
Good for you.
Yeah, I was like,
awesome.
Check it out.
So we're doing well here, but we need to keep doing better.
We are. Our post-secondary attainment rate right now is at 48.7%.
Okay.
The Education Achievement Council set the goal for 60% by 2035, but if you look at the jobs in Mississippi, and that's really before all this economic growth we've seen, 65% of our individuals needed some form of post-secondary certification.
Okay.
So we got a ways to go. And that group Jason talked about, of that 310,000, 100,000 of them are between the age of 24 and 35.
Okay.
Which have time to make a big difference.
Yeah.
And then we really need to look at our K-12 to make sure that as they come out, they're better prepared to enter whichever system they need to complete and not keep adding to those stop-outs.
Okay. All right, so Jason, I know you're aware of this, but I watched this my whole career in my industry where we're evolving from I guess recognizing degrees and sort of that value somewhat diminished. We were more concerned about certifications, industry certifications, technical certifications. It's a big thing across all industries now, is it not?
Man, you're hitting the key point here, and what we say is college is college is college.
Yeah.
So what we've traditionally thought of as college is really a 4-year experience, but the realities are, if you go and get a lineman certification or an HVAC you get it from Holmes Community College, Hines Community College. And so the message is, I think, for our listeners should be, college is if going to get some post-secondary education training after high school that leads to a high-demand, high-wage, high-growth job.
Yeah.
And if we can get that message out there, we actually do a great job in this state of sending our kids who graduate from high school to a 4-year college, number one in the United States of America as a percentage. Okay? But year 2, the retention rates really falls through not so much for 2-year, but for 4-year, and I think that's what leads to this 310,000 number that we're talking about.
Yeah.
They just drop out because they don't see the value of going to get that degree, and they have agency in their life to now choose their own path, and that's what's going on.
But there's certifications available to them across the range of industries that could position them for a high-paying job as soon as they get that.
Bingo. And really, that's really what the economy demands for right now.
Yeah.
And as we continue to emerge, into the AI economy, there'll be other needs. But for now, like getting the certification or industry recognized degree, that's what we want.
Well, I've always thought the big takeaway from college, honestly, and I know you have a PhD, so you've got more time in it than I do, is learning how to learn.
Bingo.
Right?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Gene, tell us who needs to come to this. We got about a minute left.
We need everybody. Business industry educators, because we have national perspectives here, we have local perspectives to tie it all together.
October 15th, 16th.
October 15th and 16th.
Okay, at the Jackson Convention Complex.
And you can go to MEC's webpage and look at Ascent to 55% convening and find the registration and all the information of who will be there.
Good stuff. Appreciate you guys coming in. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. Gene Massey, Executive Director, Ascent to 55%, and also my good friend Jason Dean. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth Studio.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
Tell you I'd be home every night. Breakfast in bed and we'll never fight. Say I'm wrong when I know I'm right. But baby, I'd be lying.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Not a tremendously well-known group there, Blackberry Smoke. I think they did, if I'm not mistaken, a version of Keep On Smiling, also recorded by Wet Willie. And so the house band plays it, but we play the Wet Willie version of it. Very similar, but that's the name of the tune, Keep On Smiling. Kind of a fun one to play on the drums, too. So, give the folks, you talked about this in our meeting this morning, the Supreme Court, got a lot of fanfare around this, but they're back at it, starting a new term there, and on the docket are a number of cases that are related to some of the actions taken by the president.
Yeah, the Supreme Court's going to be looking at a wide variety of stuff, starting with, well, not starting with, they'll start with whatever they want to, but including Learning Resources v. Trump, which is a case challenging Trump's authority to impose tariffs on imports under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. There's another case, Louisiana v. Calais, where the court's going to re-argue whether Louisiana's congressional map with 2 black majority districts violates the Equal Protections Clause or complies with the Voting Rights Act. There's going to be a case on West Virginia v. BPJ and Little v. Hecox, 2 cases. These are consolidated cases examining state bans on transgenders in sport and whether or not it's under Title IX of the Equal Protection Clause. And Trump v. Slaughter, the case will assess whether Trump has the power to remove members of independent agencies like the Federal Trade Commission.
Interesting. So one of those that I think is going to really suck all the air out of the room, of course, is the tariffs. Because if the Supreme Court rules that the president did not have the authority, was not acting within the scope of his office to impose those tariffs, lots of consequences of that. One could even mean the government would have to rebate those revenues to those, of course, it's American companies, importers who pay those tariffs. Well, that would be a huge mess. That's one issue. And then, of course, it's integral to the president's economic strategy. So we'll certainly see what that means. It could be incredible, whatever happens there. Now, one of the things that we're watching closely is word coming out of Washington that the administration is working on a bailout for our farmers. And, of course, that's a big issue here in the state of Mississippi. Many of our farmers have certainly been struggling, those that grow beans in particular, because China's not buying beans from our farmers. That's their retaliation for the tariff stuff. So there is there's at least a thought going around and some buzz going around that we may see a bailout, some money sent to America's farmers to the tune of about $10 billion, but I think likely it will be more than that. So this is really I guess you could say this is a refutation of the claim that the tariffs are cost-free. Certainly can't say that, but I don't know that the president expected China to drag their feet the way they are and be so intransigent with respect to working out any trade deal. Because that, honestly, you don't even hear anything about that. We kind of got a lot of these trade deals done and out of the way, but the big one, China, not a lot of news on that at this point. It just seems to have fallen off the radar. But one thing's for sure is that our farmers lost a major market for their crop, the bean farmers in particular. So the government's looking at providing some funding to our farmers to help offset those losses. And we need our farmers, obviously, and we want them to be profitable and thrive. We also want fair trade. But that's the situation we're in right now. The president is promoting the idea that 26 is going to be the banner year. And he's been saying that recently, that, in fact, he's saying just wait until 2026. He's asking us to ease our anxiety about weak jobs growth and sticky inflation. And, of course, that's mainly because the midterms are coming up. And if we lose the balance of power there in the House and the Senate, it puts the rest of the president's agenda on ice, notwithstanding that which he can do through executive order. And once again, that's subject to a challenge at the Supreme Court. The president often refers to the stock market and points to next year at the earliest when voters will start to feel the positive impact of his policies. Quote, "Our big year won't be really next year. It will be the year after." So we shall see. The markets tend to be shrugging off the shutdown at this point. I think they believe this will get worked out, and they're more interested in corporate profits. The NASDAQ up 155 points. The funny money is soaring. What's it today? 124,000, I think, up $2,400.
Let's see what the latest
NASDAQ's
is.
up. The Dow.
125 for the funny money.
Okay. Yeah. So the crude oil still about $62 a barrel. Not much change there. Up $1 today. The Dow has been up for most of the session, but it's now down 111 points. Bernie Sanders, what does he say there, Rhino?
Give me all your money.
Yep. So now he is following, you could say, the lead of the longshoremen labor unions. He wants to tax companies that automate. Yes. He calls it a robot tax. If a corporation replaces human workers with automation and artificial intelligence, he wants them to pay a tax to support workers.
Because, of course, he does.
Exactly. Such as job retraining and potentially a shorter work week. In fact, he's lobbying to pass legislation that would shorten the work week to 32 hours. He's had that going for a while. Require companies to allow workers to elect 45% of the director's members. Increase profit sharing for workers. Expand employee ownership of companies. Raise taxes on companies which automate certain jobs. No, that ain't socialism. He literally wants the workers of a company to elect the board. That's incredible. This country's finished if these policies were to become law. And then also to increase profit sharing. Okay, I don't have a problem with profit sharing. I think it's a good tool to attract employees and retain employees, of course, and allow them to participate in the performance of the company. And I think it serves as a great motivator for performance of employees. But I don't want the government dictating it. That's different. That is socialism. That is central planning. And nothing good happens in that situation. Man, oh man, I don't think any of that got a chance of passing, but certainly that's what he wants. But this robot tax, unbelievable. Should we rip all the computers out in society? Replace those with humans too? Well, I mean, where does it stop here?
I got AI to generate an image. I'm trying to get it up on SuperTalk TV. I just need one more second, and here we go. Got to remove the cropping, zoom in a little bit, and put it right next to you. And then, there we go. That's Bernie Sanders laughing maniacally while Rosie the robot is upset that her paycheck is now taxed.
That is awesome. Look at that face on Sanders. That is fantastic. Folks, you got to go to the TV and check it out. That's great. Oh, my God. Oh, that AI is something. On the C-Spire text line, Gary in Carrollton says, Bernie wants our industry to go the way of the British auto industry. Yeah. He wants the government to control what he wants every aspect of your life. We're stepping aside for a break. Half an hour of middays remains.
From the Seabrook Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. Brad Delp on the lead vocals there with Boston from their debut album, 1976. Tom Schultz, the engineering mastermind behind that sound. Thomas in Greenwood says, what's the government owning 10% of a private company is not socialism? Well, there's no consensus definition of what is socialism and what is conservatism, but I don't support the federal government taking an equity position in private companies, even though I know the president and his cabinet members that are involved in that, specifically Commerce Secretary Lutnick, believe this is in the best interest of the country, and they're making these positions, taking these positions in companies they believe are critical to our national security more than anything. So I don't want to see that become more widespread and become a trend. No, I don't think that's good policy either. But that's not on par, Thomas, with what Bernie Sanders is talking about. Might there be some strings attached to those equity positions? Possibly. Could government in that respect have more influence over board and governance? Possibly. But that's not like putting a law in place that says, hey, company, you've got to allow your employees to elect your board. That would be devastating, in my opinion, because that also means that the process of hiring executives, in particular the chief executive of a company, I think would be tainted to a great extent with that. You know who would get hurt? The employees. That's exactly who gets hurt. Nobody ever thinks about that, do they, Rhino? Is that this person at the top, I know you begrudge the fact that they make all this money, but when they got all those families in their trust, essentially, for the decisions they make, when they make the wrong decisions, a bunch of people get affected. That's why they make that kind of money. You go down the ladder, the organizational chart, and that's essentially the way compensation is structured, is the number of people affected by the work you do and the decisions you make. And let's be honest, most people don't want that responsibility. They don't want to have that sort of pressure of being responsible for the livelihoods.
But they want the pay.
But they want the pay, right. You got 500,000 people that you got to worry about, 500,000. And their company's bigger than that. Walmart, for example, is one. And you're going to get paid.
Why can't I make $250,000 reading slam poetry to my cats?
Exactly. And let's be honest, they don't want, like I said, they don't want that job. They don't want that pressure. They want the pay. It's the same point I've made about all these nuts in New York that are supporting this Zoran Mamdani, who clearly are enjoying the fruits of capitalism, because every time I see them, they're dressed to the nines and well-coiffed, and they got all the latest devices and so forth. They don't want that. They want transferism is what I call it. They just want some of what you got, and they want the government to step in and transfer. You will never convince me, says Paula Meridian, that CEOs and athletes are not overpaid. So how much should they be paid, Paul? And who should determine it? Serious question. Only the market is the fair arbiter of that. I actually think the CEOs are underpaid. And athletes are paid that much because they generate that much value for the owners of those organizations. They make that model work. Simple as that. They put butts in the seats. They ring the cash register on all the merchandise and everything, all the other ancillary sales that are associated with that athlete. They're an enterprise unto themselves, a massive organization unto themselves. I mean, we just paid the person who won the Sanderson, what was the purse there? It was over $1 million. $1.1 million, $1.2 million for 4 days of golf. Think about that. Enjoying the beautiful weather, strolling along the fairways there. What did he make? For 4 days. $250,000 a day, right? What was the purse there? The
total purse was over $6 million. Stephen Fisk walked away with $1.08 million.
Okay. That's what I thought. And that's a low purse, by the way. But it is attracting some of the better talent. So, see, that's the problem, Paul, is that what do you want, government to step in and dictate pay? Because you think it'll stop at the CEO? Paul, you don't think there are people that work in those companies where you think the CEOs are underpaid, that are not overpaid, I should say, that aren't overpaid, that aren't producing the value for those companies to earn their keep there all day and every day? Absolutely.
Remember, income tax was designed to tax the wealthy. It was only for the wealthy.
That's true. It's absolutely true.
Now everybody pays it. Well, not everybody.
I can tell you this: the number of people that could run a major company in this country effectively, successfully, there are fewer of those who can hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball successfully 1 in 3 times. That universe of people is smaller. Yet, honestly, the person who plays baseball makes more for the most part. You bat .333. You know how much money you're gonna earn? .333. Think about that. So I don't know how you can determine what the right amount is. You can't. That's why government needs to butt out and let the market dictate that. It's the only fair approach, only fair arbiter. Let's see here. John says, where can you get a $20 meal? I agree with you. The Washington Post did an expose, and I don't have any way to verify if this is accurate or not. And I do think the Washington Post often has an axe to grind with our military. But they did some research that says that there are many members that are exploiting our commitment, of course, to compensate members of our military, and I'm all for that. But you may find this interesting, Rhino. About 556,000 veterans receive disability benefits for eczema, hemorrhoids, 110,000 for benign skin growths, 81,000 for acne, 74,000 for varicose veins, according to the VA, according to their records. I see that as taking money away from veterans who truly do have legitimate health problems, right? They're the ones that need those benefits more than somebody with eczema. I'm not saying you shouldn't get your eczema treated, but come on, that's kind of out there. I wouldn't call that a disability, right? I don't think eczema makes you disabled. And that's just one of the things. But that sounds kind of crazy to me. But apparently, according to VA records, that's absolutely going on. And unfortunately, there are folks that are taking advantage of that. And I hate it because, again, they're consuming the resources that are meant for those who truly, legitimately are entitled to this country providing health care to them. So that's disturbing to see. The DNC sees Mississippi as fertile ground. They're putting money into a state that is solidly red. We're kind of a low-profile state on the national scene, but apparently the DNC sees some chinks in the armor, and they're sticking some money in here. We were talking about that this morning in our meeting. Of course, Republicans control our state governor. We hold all the seats in Congress, save one, that be Benny Thompson's. Oh, boy. Democrat leaders say they need to start building up their presence in red states to remain competitive. That after the 2030 census coming up, a few years. But they're investing some money in a state that Trump won by 62% in last year's vote. They're not necessarily saying they think that their attention and their investment in Mississippi can win seats, but they do state they think they could improve the presence of the party in the state. I would say the best way they could improve...
Pretty low hurdle to clear.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say the best way they could improve the presence, the reputation of the party in the state is to get somebody besides Benny Thompson. He seems to be the face of the Democrat Party, would you agree, in the state of Mississippi? And I mean, he's a high-profile Democrat in the U.S. Congress because he's been there since 1993, which is insane that someone could be there that long. He's been in Congress longer than many of the people he represents have been on the earth. Unbelievable. So we're going to step aside for a break. Final segment's next.
Poly up a Mississippi.
Are we going to do this?
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
I got a girl as sweet as can be. She wouldn't hurt a fly. When she hits that bottle, I see the devil in her eye. Start looking for trouble. It happens in a blink. Oh, so fine, I love that girl of mine. But she's crazy when she
It's kind of amazing, is it not, Rhino, to think about we have a government shutdown and the contention is about government's involvement in health care. And that seems to have been the center of so much controversy in Washington for decades, right? Going back to Hillary Care with Bill Clinton in the 90s when they had grandiose plans then, you remember, and they backed off because it was so unpopular. And then Obama comes in and the stars align perfectly, mainly because of the financial meltdown. The financial meltdown is what swept Obama into office. And it also gave him big margins in the House and the Senate. And for a brief period of time, had a supermajority in the Senate, which is unheard of. Had 60 senators. It was, ironically, it was Ted Kennedy who passed away. I remember distinctly in December of 2009, Obama's first year. And he was replaced by Scott, can't remember his last name, a Republican in the Bay State of Massachusetts. Scott Brown, I think is what it was. And
yeah, Scott Brown.
Yeah. So, and it was because Massachusettsans, I don't know how to say it, they had lived under Romney Care. And remember, Obamacare was kind of modeled after Romney Care, and they didn't like it. And Deep Blue Massachusetts sent a Republican to take the place of Ted Kennedy to thwart the efforts to implement the federal version of Romney Care. And at that point, the Democrats were forced to pass healthcare reform legislation that actually cleared the hurdle in the Senate before Kennedy died, that they then passed through the reconciliation process, sent it back to the House, to the chagrin. I remember seeing Nancy Pelosi's face was just, besides this was before she made the famous comment, now the infamous comment, we have to pass the bill for you to see what's in it. But they were disappointed because the bill they wanted, the legislation they wanted, was far more onerous and egregious, honestly, than what we got. All because Ted Kennedy, who championed socialized medicine his entire career in the U.S. Senate, oddly, ironically, in a twist of fate, passed away, thus meaning the Democrats had to, I'm serious here, guys, had to settle for what we now know as the Affordable Care Act. What they wanted was orders of magnitude more intrusive and more expensive. Even Harry Reid struggled when he was the Senate Majority Leader for the Democrats to get that one through the Senate. Ted Kennedy dies, and they have to resort to the Max Baucus bill, as it was called, Max Baucus, a Democrat from, I think, Montana. He was the main drafter of the Senate's version. That's what we ended up getting.
Yeah, the official term used by state government for the citizens of the Commonwealth are Bay Staters.
Oh, that's exactly right.
But the technical term is Massachusettsian.
Okay. Don't know if I can say that. Oh, man. Yeah, that is absolutely right. Bay Staters, the Bay State, because of the bay there around Boston. In fact, I dealt with a financial firm up there called Bay Capital, located in the Boston area. So, and where I was going with this before we're done with the show today is that just did a quick little look up over the weekend. Here are four figures for you. 69 million, 78 million, 24 million, and 5 million. You know what that is? The number of people that are enrolled in Medicare, Medicaid, subsidized ACA marketplace coverage, and TRICARE. In other words, all government-provided insurance. Incredible. 176 million total of the 340 million in the country. Now, I know folks on Medicare will say, of course, we're in Medicare because we paid into it. Hey, I get it. You did. You pay into it, and that insurance is waiting for you when you achieve the age of 65 and you're eligible for Medicare. But here's the thing. Medicare has been enhanced so much as far as what's covered. The drug benefit, famously under W. Bush back in the 2000s as an example, and the other parts of Medicare, but no additional contributions. So now Medicare is supported about 40% by general fund revenues. It doesn't take enough money in, and you didn't pay enough money in, unfortunately, to pay it. It's incredible. Yeah, I know, John, you got to earn TRICARE. You can't buy in it. I understand, but it's provided by, I'm just pointing, and I believe all of our military, they are entitled to the best care that we can provide them. That's the least we can do for their service, both active and retirees. Absolutely. I'm just pointing out it's a form of government-provided insurance. It's a small fraction of the total. On the coast tomorrow, stay safe and God bless.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.